Hello, and welcome to the Designing with Love podcast. I am your host, Jackie Pellegrin, where my goal is to bring you information, tips, and tricks as an instructional designer. Hello, GCU students and alumni. Welcome to episode 14 of the Designing with Love podcast. Today, I have the honor of interviewing Jackie Moran, who is a manager for the department that I work in, and I have an opportunity to ask her some great questions. So welcome, Jackie. Thank you for joining me today.
Well, thank you for having me. It's an honor to be here.
Yes. So the first question is, can you tell us a little bit about yourself and maybe like your professional background?
Sure. I wasn't always an instructional designer. I started out with a bachelor's degree in organizational communication and worked at a nonprofit for several years. Actually monitored adult foster care homes and group homes for disabled and elderly adults. So that's a little different. But I actually got into training in for those adult home caregivers. Actually, I ended up helping with design the training for the that we were using that was approved by the county and by the contractor, and that got me into. So I was in an unofficial instructional design capacity, working with SMEs and getting content together. And I realized I really liked it. And so I decided to go back and get my master's degree and dive into that as my full-time profession. Wow. So yeah, even from then, I took another detour. I ended up getting into, I stayed with that organization, the nonprofit, for quite a while, but then left and had a couple stints as an instructional designer at Maricopa Community Colleges and also at Intel. But then came back to the same nonprofit that I had been at originally, but now rather than being related specifically to that, the elder care services, I was in the HR department. Oh, okay. And I was doing training there, and then I got wrapped into policy writing, and I actually ended up being the HR director for a few years.
Wow, that's cool.
It was different, and I definitely appreciated the time and the experience. But I realized I really did love instructional design, so I actually stayed there, but gave up that position and went back to being the director of training. And I really liked it, but that's where I was until I came to GCE to do instructional design there.
Wow, that's exciting. So to know that you kind of did full circle and you ended up coming back to your first love, right?
It really was. Yeah.
Yeah. And you kind of probably, and Sean mentioned this in his interview too, and I don't know if you feel the same. You probably do. Once you're an instructional designer, you always are, even if you move into a leadership role, right? You're kind of always are that instructional designer, have that thinking hat on, right?
I think that's absolutely true. It is kind of a way of thinking and a way of organizing and a way of, working through problems. So yeah, I think that's true.
Yeah, definitely. So the second question, I'm going to kind of change it up a little bit. So sure. Originally I have, what kind of work do you currently do? But I'll add a little bit to the end of it. What kind of work do you currently do day to day as a manager, since you're currently managing a team? So you have you have curriculum developers, you have an editor, and you have instructional designers. So how does that look day to day for you?
As the manager, it's a lot of, I'll say, there's a kind of a difference between responding and reacting. We think of reacting as a little bit more hair on fire, whereas responding is a little bit more thoughtful. And I, as a manager, end up doing some of both. We'll have problems that pop up that have to be handled right away. Issues, often technical issues, things that perhaps something isn't working right. We've had some issues with, we're doing some more complex things with the Halo, the GCU LMS, and sometimes things go awry. And then other times there are errors that we have to fix because of human error that happened. Things didn't get loaded properly, and that's just going to happen. And then we're always looking for ways to improve and make the tasks and responsibilities that our department has. We're trying to look for ways to do those better. So we always have multiple projects going on related to that. Of how can we improve our tools or get new tools or try to make the job that we do more efficient and effective, or do we need to change the job that we're doing to respond to the environment? So it's a lot of a little bit of a lot of different things. Is my day.
Yeah, definitely. You have to juggle all the different balls in the air and wear different hats, right? Besides just a manager. Sure. Yeah, for definitely. Sure. So when the position came along as manager, what sparked your interest in that to go from instructional designer to manager? What was your kind of draw towards that? What do you think?
That's a funny question. For this particular role, I had been on the team already. So we were a 12-person team, and I had been hired by one manager. That manager, who I loved dearly, her name was Anne Marie. She left. She retired, and so we needed another manager, and we had someone else from the team at that time come on to be our manager. Somebody who had a lot of leadership experience in actually both the military as well as being a former principal. So he slid into that role very, very easily. But then he retired, and our team really liked having a new manager kind of from within. Not that it was a guarantee. It wasn't. The position was competitive and we had to interview for it. But that we thought about that, and I had managerial experience having been that HR director
right
in the past. So I felt like I understood the role, and thought that it, really, I kind of think of our team as a wheel, and we are all different spokes on the wheel, as opposed to a pyramid or something like that. So I felt like I could change the spoke that I was on the wheel, and be the manager for the team, and also carry a slightly different role for the department. And I felt like I would be successful at that. So it was kind of a group decision.
That's neat. I like that. And so far it's been pretty neat to watch that and see that go on. So that's been great.
Thanks. Yeah.
Absolutely.
We've had a good time. We've definitely had some fun.
It definitely has been. So are there any specific areas in which you're expanding your knowledge and skills in the instructional design field? Even though you're a manager, are you still kind of out there kind of looking to see what's out there, and maybe in the area of technology or something like that?
Yeah. You got it. That's exactly right. I do like to, be aware of what's happening, actually, not just for myself, but also because we have a degree in instructional design that we offer. So I'm interested in it from that perspective too. There are definitely those elements that are sort of tried and true about instructional design, or repackaged, the ADDIE formula, and then being familiar with adult learning theories and things like that. But then the technology is what changes all the time. And I'm going to fully admit I'm not up on it as well as I would like to be, because I'm not using it on a daily basis. But that when I have time to work on my skills, that's where I go. I try to work on learning new, if not learning actual how to run the tools, at least learning about them and what's out there, and what's available. And you know, what a world we live in. You can get a YouTube video on just about anything now.
Yes, that's so true. And then we can be the content creators now. It's amazing.
Yeah.
Like a tool like Canva is one of the ones that I go to so much because you can pretty much do anything. I didn't even realize this, Jackie. A couple weeks ago, I was wanting to make my LinkedIn profile stand out a little bit more. And so I was looking at the social media section in Canva and I was scrolling. You know, you usually don't scroll over to the right to the arrow and see what else is going on. But I did that. I'm like, let me see what else is there. And they had a LinkedIn banner option. And I was like, really? So I checked that out and I was like, this is interesting. So I found one that's really pretty and it's got like that office look, you know, with the laptop and the coffee cup and the angle looking down. And then it had like where you could put your name all fancy and your position. And I'm like, oh, this is really nice. So when I changed it, I actually have been getting like, you know, personal messages. Yeah, I know. And I was like, oh boy. And I'm like, no, I'm sorry. Offers, I'm not interested, please. But it's very interesting. I've been getting offers to join and do consulting work. And I'm like, wow, all I did was just change my banner. And all of a sudden, that's all it took was just rebranding myself a little bit and changing that. So it's amazing the technology, how we can utilize it, not only for the learners, but maybe for ourselves too, and help market ourselves a little bit better. So
that is a great example.
Yeah, it's really neat. So, yep. And so since you're in a leadership role, are there any specific leadership styles and skills that you find helpful in your daily work as a manager?
Yes, I do think that that is very important for people that are in leadership roles, is to think about what does your team need. We in our department, we have folks that are really skilled, and most of the people, in fact, because there's so many former K-12 teachers, we have a lot of people who have a lot of initiative, and they don't need that same level of monitoring most of the time. Not that, you know, folks don't go through spells where they're having a difficult time or you know, not able to perform to the ability that they like due to personal reasons. But in terms of, you know, being a manager and what people need to help them to feel connected to the organization, to feel like they're being seen, that they're doing a good job, particularly for us, we're remote, right? So we really want those people to feel connected. So I think about what do the people on my team need? What do they need from me in terms of tools and resources? But then also, what management style do they need? Do they need someone who's going to check in with them just on a regular basis because that just makes them feel connected and they like that? Do they need someone? Do some people need a little bit more accountability? Do other people just really want the hands off and they just want to tell me when they hit their milestone? So I've got such a great team of folks, and I really try to think about and talk to them about, you know, what do they need, and I'll ask. I don't have to figure it out, right? I'll ask them, you know, what do you prefer? How would you like me to check in with you? And you know, we've got some other things in the department that are built for that to assist us. But that's the big role of a manager to me, is trying to provide the folks what they need on a daily basis and for their career.
That's good. And be able to adapt when you need to and personalize it for each employee on your team instead of that one size fits all approach that usually never works, right?
Right.
Yeah. Because some people will be like, oh my gosh, the manager's like a helicopter mom, you know, hovering over. I don't like that. And then others will be like, well, my manager's never around and she never talks to me. What's going on? So you're going to get, because we all have different personalities, we're all going to react differently. So it's good to gauge that and see what each person needs. And their needs may change, like you said, from week to week or month to month, depending upon what life throws at us, right?
Absolutely.
Yep.
Absolutely.
Exactly. So the final question, and this is the one I always like to end with because I like to always give the students, some information and tips that they can leave with once they listen to this, and kind of like that call to action in a sense. So my final question is, what are some tips and advice you can share with those who are currently in the master's program in instructional design at GCU? Hello, I have some exciting news to share with all of my listeners. There is a feature called fan mail. What this allows you to do is send me a text message anytime during the episode. There's a link located at the top of the description in each episode, and it says send Jackie a text message. So when you click on that link, you'll be able to send me a message letting me know what you thought about the episode and if you have any ideas for future episode content as well. I look forward to seeing your text messages. Thank you.
Well, I had a chance to think about this because you did share those questions with me in advance, which I really appreciated.
Yes.
So I thought I would share a kind of the aha that I had about the design process. And actually, we touched on it a little bit already when we were talking about what's an instructional designer, always an instructional designer, because of that systems thinking that you start to view the world through. I think it was actually when I was the HR director that it really, really occurred to me that process, if you think about the ADDIE model, is actually the model for everything.
True.
Everything that you're trying to plan and work on it follows those same steps. Now, if you're designing instruction, in the ADDIE model, you take time to add into those steps, but there are multiple models for this sort of problem solving. Another one that I like a lot is the plan, do, check, act cycle, and that's the same thing, right? It's the planning is the analyzing and the design and the developing, and then the do is the implementing part of ADDIE, and then the check is the evaluating, and then the act is coming back around and seeing what you need to do what next. So when I realized that ADDIE model basically and that cycle of analyzing and doing and evaluating and doing again, that's when that was just a big light bulb that came on for me, that whenever you're trying to work on anything, any kind of project, which is what we do in work, and so often we end up being project driven. It really works. And one other thing that I wanted to share that relates to that is that as an instructional designer, your people, your managers or your higher ups will inevitably bring you things that are issues that they say, this is a training issue and we want you to solve it. And the reality is that it's not always a training issue.
That is true. I've experienced that many times.
So, and if you think about both of those pieces, so if analyze, like anything you're going to do, start with the analyze, right? And in that analysis phase, that's when you might decide that this issue would benefit from some training, but it also might benefit because a system needs to be improved, right? A process needs to be improved. Jackie is turning in her reports late every single month. She needs training. Well, no, then we find out that Jackie doesn't get the data for her report until the day before, and sometimes she can't get it done on time because it's not enough time. So taking that extra time of doing that analysis beyond just the instruction, but to look at what's the situation that we're trying to solve for, is very important. And don't let them bully you into doing training when it's not a training issue.
And skipping over the analysis, right? So many times I've had clients that want to do that. They want to just skip past it. No, you don't need to do a needs assessment. We know what we want.
Exactly.
We still need to do that. Or they want to skip evaluation. They want to skip either the A or the E or both. And they just want to get it done. Like,
And
wow.
every business, you're so right. Every business we struggle with the evaluation.
Mm-hmm.
And even, we talk about it even with us in the courses that we help GCU with, how much we would like to do more on the evaluation. We have pieces there for sure. We definitely are able to get feedback, and I love that. But boy, oh boy, and it's because, the speed of business, right? It's
Right.
difficult. Things are constantly moving, and you don't always have that time. But it is, boy, when you're able to do it, it can make a huge impact in a positive way.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's great. Wow. Anything else that you can think of that would be beneficial for all the students in the ID program you can think of?
Yeah, those are for sure, enjoy those projects. Those are every project that they're doing that you're going to do is going to be helpful. It's going to be good experience no matter what you're doing. It's going to be good experience that you'll be able to take to the next job, because you're always building those skills. You're never going to be at ground zero again, as long as you're continuing to build and build up. And that just makes you better and better.
Right.
With
That's
every
so
experience. So enjoy those. Yeah.
Yeah. Nice too, because in the program, the way it's built, everything builds up and builds upon each other. So it's fantastic. Yeah. The way it was built, and taking that instructor feedback and taking it to heart and knowing, okay, I can improve in certain areas. And there's some areas where I'm not more naturally and, able to do well, but being able to take all the feedback and then just continually improve is always good, because there's always room for improvement, I think, anytime.
For sure.
Yeah. So
and I have seen some of the portfolios that people have had at the end. And as someone who is a hiring manager, I think they're great. So definitely like you said, take the feedback, and if you have a project that you submitted and you're able to put that into your portfolio and you get that feedback on how you can improve it, even though you already turned it in and got the grade, go ahead and do it. Make it, spice it up a little bit, or make those additions, and then it becomes something that you can share later on, and it's your best work. It can make a difference when you're applying for those jobs.
That's true. Definitely. And even in the capstone course, there's that opportunity to finalize the portfolio, and I'll even look at artifacts too. And I'll say, this looks great, but maybe, even though you've already done this, I'm not grading them on it, but I'm just looking at it holistically as the whole of the whole entire portfolio. And I'll give them some feedback, even though they may have done it. Even if the portfolio site's been up and running for a while, I'll give them some feedback on that. Maybe the aesthetics can be improved here, or something can be, done to make it look as professional as possible. So
nice.
It helps too. Yeah.
That's fantastic. That's really great.
Great. Well, thank you so much, Jackie, for taking the time to be able to give this information to our students. I think it's really helpful when I can interview experts that have different roles within the industry, and with your expertise and background, it's always nice to get a little inside look into what you do every day, and the passion that you have for the field as well.
Well, thank you. I enjoyed it. It's always great talking with you.
You too. Definitely.
Thank you, Jackie.
You're welcome. Okay. I can always edit this part out, so I'm going to stop the recording now. I wouldn't want to end the meeting. No. How do I? Oh shoot! Stop recording. This is. Thank you for taking some time to listen to this podcast episode today. Please take a moment to like the episode and share it with others so they can learn about this topic as well. Have a great day.